Because you were, let's backtrack, because I know you've glossed over this, being the youngest editor of Cosmo worldwide.
Yes, back then I was.
Can you just for a minute go, that's pretty amazing?
No, because at the time, like, the younger you are, the more you think you know.
Yeah.
So I thought I was ready to be an editor at 21.
You did?
You know, like, by the time I was 24, youngest, it's only the further away I get from it, the more reverence I have for the brand and the trust that was placed in me at that young green age.
Yeah.
And I did stupid things. Like, I decided, sex and relationships, take them out of the magazine. It's so old school.
Yeah.
And of course, circulation plummeted because that's what Cosmo's heritage is, sex and relationships.
Yeah.
So I learnt that, I had to get whacked around the head quite a few times. And of course, that's the only way to learn. But I was lucky enough to have a boss that let me make some mistakes.
Right, okay.
And always backed me in. Even when I was making dumb mistakes, she let me make them.
Yeah.
Which is so much more valuable than stopping someone from making a mistake, because then they'll secretly always think that I would have always thought, the right thing to do would be to take out all the sex and relationships.
Yeah, right, okay.
So, you learn through trial and error.
And then you went on and became the editor-in-chief of Dolly.
Cosmo and Clio, yeah. So I was kind of done with women's magazines. I'd, worked essentially at Cosmo and at Clio for all 10 years. So I'd worked in that same genre for a long time. And I hadn't been in that genre myself for a long time. I mean, I had a baby when I was at Cosmo. Yeah. I wasn't the classic Cosmo girl going out and drinking cocktails and practicing sex positions.
Yeah.
I had a mortgage and I had a toddler, and, I was figuring all that out, and I'd had some heartbreak with miscarriage and relationship issues, and I was done, I didn't want to be the poster girl for oral sex anymore.
Yeah. Were you ever, do you think?
I actually was.
What do you mean? I don't look at you and go,
I know,
oral sex,
but I actually was, because at that time, there weren't, now everybody's out in the media talking about everything and there's a million spokespeople, but back then, magazine editors, there weren't a lot of people speaking on behalf of young women.
Yeah.
So, I was trying to sell a magazine, so I did, towards the end of my time at Cosmo, did a bog standard oral sex lessons sealed section, right?
Right.
Tamer than the stuff I was doing at Clio 10 years before.
Right.
Didn't think anything of it. I knew, hopefully, it would make circulation go up, but didn't occur to me that it would offend anyone. But everything had moved to the right, everything under the Howard government and a conservative, political climate, everything had become more conservative. Right. So suddenly cover lines that had been fine 10 years before
were really out there.
Yeah, and also because the supermarkets had so much more power. 50% of mag circulation was coming from supermarkets. So, and I understand this as a mother now, people didn't like standing at the checkout with their kids and their bread and their milk, seeing oral sex lessons, and people complained. So Woolworths, and then followed very quickly by Coles, pulled it off the shelf.
Really?
Pulled the issue off the shelf. And so, of course, this became a big, obviously a quiet media week, but this became a media story. So I was called for comment, and I remember doing this interview on Triple J, with American Rosso, I think, at the time, and, they were taking the piss, and I was having to defend it. And then my son was about 6 or 7 at the time, and I remember one of his best friend's mum said, "Oh yeah, we were in the car," and he goes like, "Oh, there's Luca's mum talking about penises."
Oh no!
And I just thought, you know what, I'm done.
Yeah,
I wasn't embarrassed, but I just was like, I can't do this justice anymore. Cosmo deserves someone who's younger and in that demographic and can put their hand on their heart and stand by their oral sex stories.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was starting to feel a little bit more sympathetic with the mothers in the checkout that were like, oh, I really don't want to have that conversation.